Day 3 of New York Giants OTAs. Let's get it. What is going on, guys? What is going on, 27 Squad? Welcome back into another video as we continue our recaps of OTA coverage. This is day 3 of 10 OTA practices. As you guys know, day 1 was not open to anybody, so there was no practice report or anything like that, so we weren't able to get much information. Day 2 was 2 days ago, and we got to see a lot more action, especially with the quarterbacks. They got a lot of work in. But in day 3, today, May 30th, the media, I don't believe, was allowed out there because nobody was posting about it except Giants.com. So we have reports from John Schmelk and Dan Solomon as they kind of give their, I guess, takes and observations on their individual articles, and I read through them, and this is what I can gather from it in the best, most informative way possible. As you guys know, there were a lot of touchdowns with the offense in the last OTA practice that we covered, where Jameis Winston, even Tommy DeVito, Jackson Dart, Russell Wilson, they all had, I believe, multiple touchdowns before, besides Tommy DeVito. But this time, it was the complete opposite. Defense strikes back immediately after in the next practice. We got a lot of pass breakups, including 3 from Art Green. Raheem Lane got himself a couple. Drew Phillips had 1. Cordell Flott, Chris Board, and Bobby O for the linebackers, and also Trey Hawkins, who had a impressive pass breakup on a back shoulder throw. If you guys know anything about back shoulder throws, it's one of the hardest plays to defend against. Again, this is practice, but this is the notes that we're getting, and it's something of note that a lot of these defensive backs were able to crash down and make some plays on the offense after not exactly playing up to par in the last practice. Now, as opposed to the last practice where it was at the 10-yard line and kind of really in those tight red zone areas, the Giants kind of moved it back a little bit between the 10 and the 20-yard line, and were working on their offense from there. That's kind of the reason why there wasn't a lot of touchdowns in this practice. But in those high red zone practices, those high red zone plays, Jackson Dart had himself 2 touchdowns, one to Bo Collins, who I believe has been mentioned before, if I'm not mistaken, either in rookie camp or the last OTA practice. I can't remember, but Bo Collins, the undrafted free agent rookie wide receiver out of Notre Dame, making some noise, and it's always noteworthy to see these younger players, whether a first-year player or a rookie, be noted multiple times in multiple practices in these articles. It really goes to show like who's really impressing in these practices, and maybe we see more of them in the preseason and eventually making a roster. We've seen a little bit of that when it came to somebody like Elijah Chapman. And then the other touchdown pass was to Lil Jordan Humphrey. He is back on the team after he was cut, but it was only to make room for something, and then they brought him back on, so nothing to worry about there. We'll see if he winds up making the roster. He's a 6'4", like 220-pound receiver, something that the Giants have been looking for ages now, so we'll see if he makes the final roster. But he had a touchdown from Jackson Dart. So now we move on to the competitive period of the practice, where they're going to move it back to the 10-yard line, and it's going to be competitive, where they have a certain amount of time and a certain amount of plays to get into the end zone, and obviously if they don't, the defense gets a win there. Now, Russell Wilson and the Giants' first-team offense were the only offense to get into the end zone. The defense won the rest of the day versus the other groups. We're talking second team, third team, whether that be Jameis Winston, Jackson Dart, Tommy DeVito. None of them were able to get into the end zone except the first-team offense. Tyrone Tracy was able to punch in for a score the first time, and then the 2-point conversion was to Zach Pascal. Now, as far as John Schmelk goes, he made it seem like Zach Pascal caught 2 touchdowns, but he said one was for a score and the other one was a touchdown with the starting offense. So he kind of mixed it and he kind of mangled the words a little bit, kind of blurred the lines to make it seem like Zach Pascal had 2 touchdowns, but one was a 2-point conversion, which really doesn't matter at the end of the day because it's still you know, it's still a score, it's practice, but still. And then the touchdown right after that. So Russell Wilson and Zach Pascal and Tyrone Tracy were pretty much the only players to get into the end zone during the competitive period, and the defense won the rest of the day. Again, we had Art Green, Raheem Lane, Drew Phillips, Cordell Flott, and Trey Hawkins all competing out there and forcing pass breakups and forcing incompletions during that period, and that's what really won them the day. The only turnover we had today was from newly acquired free agent, one of my favorite free agent of this class, Paulson Adebo, the cornerback we signed from New Orleans, who is recovering just fine from that broken femur. He seems to be moving just fine, moving fine, according to the reports that I'm reading, that he doesn't look like anything's wrong or he's had a prior injury. He's out there playing his best ball, and Paulson Adebo had the lone interception today. Now, there's been a little change to Giants practices where it's something you see a lot in high school or you see a lot in college ball, where when the defense forces a turnover, you either have like a big chain, you have like some sort of prop like a hammer or something like that. In this case, the New York Giants are implementing a turnover reward to whoever gets a turnover. You guys are pretty much familiar with this, I would assume, but this time it's like a treasure chest. It's like unlocking Davy's locker or something like that. So at this point, it's a treasure chest. So if you get a turnover, you get to open the chest, and I don't know what's in it. It looked like a football in the photo, so there's that. Apparently, they've been doing this since the beginning. This is the first time that they're kind of showing people what they're doing. Apparently, Micah McFadden, who had an interception on the second day, along with, I can't remember the other person who had an interception. It was Dane Belton. Dane Belton and Micah McFadden were also able to open the chest. So we have 3 turnovers so far in OTAs, and all of which are guys that are probably starters. Is Dane Belton a starter? I don't know. But I love to see that Paulson Adebo not only is moving well after the broken femur, because a lot of people were concerned about that, signing him as a free agent to decent money, but also seeing guys like Micah McFadden and Dane Belton out there and forcing turnovers as well. And one other play to note, Chauncey Golston, another free agent signing, this time from the Cowboys, slated to play defensive end for the Giants, had 2 would-be sacks. We don't know who it was on. Jackson Dart, Jameis Winston, Russell. Oh, I don't really know. But he had 2 would-be sacks. Now, I put that in quotation marks because it's really up to guessing, an educated guess, if it would have been a sack or not. Because obviously he can't complete the sack. He can't even touch the quarterback. But apparently he got into the backfield before the ball was thrown. Could have been a sack. I don't really pay mind to the trenches. Whenever they talk about offensive line, defensive line, I don't really pay mind to it, because like a terrible player could have a great win, but I'm not really that impressed yet because there's no pads on. They're barely touching each other, so I'm not really gonna get hyped about it. You know, Chauncey Golston seems like he's gonna be a solid player for the Giants, but it's good that he had 2 would-be sacks, but it's just not enough to hold any water. But I just had to throw it out there for you guys. So that is day 3. Not a lot going on. Usually when the defense plays extremely well, the practice report gets very short. I noticed that over the amount of years I've been doing this. When the defense is playing stout, they kind of notice who has been playing well on defense, but the articles are very short, so not too much to know. So we'll be back next week. That completes the first week of Giants OTAs. Again, there's not a lot of information that's going to be seen unless it's training camp. Training camp is where we're going to get the longer articles. We're going to get highlights. We're going to get practice breakdowns from the Giants media, like Bob Papa. He does like practice breakdowns and stuff like that. They do interviews and things like that. So that's where we really get a lot of the content. This time it's OTAs. It's practices, nothing too much to know, and so I'm just going to be covering as much as I can for you guys. So that being said, leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Woo!